Okay, there seems to be a little bit of confusion on just some of the UV mapping. I just see kind of popping up. So we're going to go back to the basis, and I just wanted to show you guys this, which may help. Also using the UV toolkit. So our little rabbit here is not exactly the best model, but actually that works to our advantage because then you know how to deal with a model that doesn't have the best topology. But if you could do it on there, you can do it on models that are clean. So I selected, I've turned on the checker map so I can actually see a checkered pattern on it. And you can also see that I can, of course, control how intense that is. And so one thing that is nice is this model is a duplicate on either sides. In other words, it has symmetry. So UV mapping should make it a lot easier. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to turn on symmetry in my UV toolkit, which I turned on under tools right there. It'll either show floating, and mine was floating, and I just stuck it over here. So I'm going to turn it on here. And what that basically means now is if I go to edge mode, you notice as I go to highlight stuff, it's highlighting on both sides. So in essence, I can do both sides at once, which is nice. So I double click this edge right here. Oops, that's not the one I wanted. Want one a little bit further in, that one. And you see it did the same on the other side. So I'm going to cut that one. So that's separated from the shell. And I'm going to do the same here. Okay. I suppose I could just keep that all together. I just don't like this angle that's here. Right in the seam. It has a seam that's there, but I don't know if that's the best one. Okay. So basically, let's just start with this little leg. I'll ignore this part for right now. Sometimes I'll go in a little bit further for it. But like I said, the topology of this is a little bit weird. So we've cut right there. And let's say we'd want it to go to right about there. Okay. And I'm going to cut that one. And then on the inside, say U to U. And cut that. So basically, in essence, oops. Oh, it got all of that part there. I don't want everything. I just want pink. Just this little strip on the inside. From here down and around the tops, cut. So now if I actually go in, I grab these faces here, just going in a circle like that. See, I have them selecting one, selects the other. I'm going to shift period to grow the selection. And that now takes the bottom without me having to go click, click, click. And now I can add to these by going to face mode, shift, pink. I shift left mouse click, then shift double left mouse click, and as long as it's relatively clean, if it's clean, it'll grab the whole circle, and that's what I want. And so now, because of the way I cut them, not only is it separated from the foot and the body, but it's also has a cut in the middle, which means I can open this up like a Coca-Cola can and just flatten it out. And if I just hit optimize, view, manifold, yeah, we know. It might take a second. And I don't like what it did, so I'm going to undo, and let's just do an unfold along the U, the V, U. So that's them, the legs right now. So if I select one, Grab the shell to separate them, or trying to. So I may have to turn off, let me turn off symmetry for a second so I can just get one of the shells. So they're not overlapping on each other. Okay. So now if I turn, so they're not overlapping, I can turn that back on. So if I select these, it selects both because those are the mirrors of each other. And were I to just go unfold, we could see it's trying to make heads or tails, but whenever something is red, that means it's inverted. And I'm not digging that. So what I'm going to do, let's try this, is grab this, and I'm actually going to do a cylindrical map. And of course, since it's symmetrical, it's going to try and do both of them, which it did like that. But that's okay. I think that might still give me what I want. And I have to make sure. There we go. So those are cylindrically mapped. And now I just have to make that cut again. Man, this geometry is weird. That's inside of there. That's not right. Yeah, this is why this model is not the greatest to go off of, but yeah, it has a few issues. And I'm just going to tweak that out a little bit. Since I did a cylindrical map on both of them, there's not, the seam isn't really doing what it should do. So I'm just going to put the seam back in. We're going to cut right there. You see it goes from the top to the bottom. So now if I go in there now, and now I do an unfold along, there we go, that's much better. And now you see as I kind of go back and forth, I could just hit unfold. Sometimes that gives me some weird effects. There's even the unfold tool, which doesn't want to work right now, but I kind of like going back and forth. Now, if I try to optimize, there we go. And if I take these guys and just shrink them down, we can see I don't really have that distortion anymore. It kind of flows. Plus, these kind of make more sense. This is the hip. This is where it meets the foot or gets close to meeting the foot. So I can just push this aside for right now. And then I go to my next section, which would be, let's do the foot. Grab the faces here. That's the bottom. So what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to do a planar map along the Y, middle mouse button. And there's the feet, but we just need to cut it so that the bottom is separate from the top. So I go into edge mode. I want to be careful. I don't want to get all these extra pieces. And that's the weird part about weird topology is it's doing some funky stuff. That's okay. I'll say, I think right, yeah, right there. And I just have it that I've kind of laid these lines out that it's the bottom, the top, but they'll hit here. Symmetry is on, so it's doing both feet, cut. And now I can just select, oops, the bottom and the tops. And if I just grab those, and you can notice, here's the cool thing I like about doing it this way, is that as I'm doing this, these make more sense visually. You notice some of your UVs were like all crunchy and you couldn't make heads or tails. It should mimic what the models look like. So if I go in and I take this, now I'm using my trying to get the distortion down. That looks fairly good. If I just do a unfold, let's try and optimize. That's not too bad. And then I do the same, but these guys are red, which means the textures are backwards, which means I need to flip them. So if I go in, and where did they put that in this new configuration? La 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 la. It is probably staring me right in the face. Transform, move. Oh, there's an option for flipping. There it is. Right there. Flip. So that's better. And now that I have those, now I can go down and I can optimize those. And you see that's much better now. And I just have to make sure that these guys are consistent with the texture scale of the rest of the foot. Okay. There's a little bit of distortion, it's okay. In some areas, it actually makes sense to have a little bit of distortion because skin pulls and things like that. But it looks like that's pretty close, there we go, to the texture size. Okay. So now I've got those legs done. I'm just kind of stacking these guys up. Sometimes I can just go, we could see what do these edges go to. And they go to each other here. So I could stitch them together, but it's going to be, kind of up to you. If I try to put this into here, because the shape is so radically different, you're going to start getting more distortion that's harder to control. But we'll cross that bridge. So essentially, these are the front legs. Boom. I'm just going to put them over here for now. And then I would just continue on and do the same for the rest. All right, I'd do it same for the back. Kind of planar map on this long area, just down, cut it in half. Cylindrical for these, maybe even two cylindricals. I like to do something like this as two cylindricals, one here, one there, and then just stitch them back together afterwards. And what I mean by that is that if I go in and I grab these faces here, and I just have to make sure to deselect everything else. Okay. Cool. Once again, face mode, shift, double click, shift to get that whole part. And then I'm going to get this part here as well. Yeah, that looks good. So this will be one cylindrical map, and I'll put the seam like probably right down the back or on the inside, someplace where I'm not going to see it as much. Or I can hide the seam better in textures. So I'm going to take that. I'm just going to cylindrically map that. So we go into create cylinder. It's trying to do both of them. So that's because I'm using symmetry, but that also means I'm doing both sides at the same time. Okay. And now I can go in, and now I'm just going to go and cut it. Oh gosh, what the deuce? This has some weird topology. I apologize. I'm going to grab that there. This is an n-gon. It should not exist, but evidently it does. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to cut it. And now I'm just going to optimize those. Bloom! Look at that. Nice and quick. So now I can grab these. Okay. And before I go, now I'm going to grab the top portion. Shift, double click. Okay, we can get one more. Yeah, that'll work. And I'll do the same. Cylindrical map. This time you see it's like really weird. That's because the orientation is wrapping it around it as if it were a can sitting up, but this is almost like it would be a can laying down. So I'm going to click right where that little red T is on this tool. And then I just click on the circle for rotation and brings up my interior rotation there. So if I just rotate it now, there you go. I can even extend that out if I wanted to, like that. That gives me at least a better place to start from. Now, if I want this to be clean, let's just move this out of the way. Move it up here for a second. There is distortion, we'll fix that. Here's where my cut is. So now I can go into edge mode. And if I click here, 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 which is right down the middle, but it continues on. There's a benefit to that because that means I'm cutting in the same place. It'll be easier for me to stitch it back to the lower leg. So I'm going to cut that. Now I take these and I optimize. It looks like there's something extra. Why are you there? Okay, I just need to do it a few more times. And I'm basically popping this open so that there's little to no overlap. There's still some areas, but okay, that's much better. There's still a little bit right here. Scaling them away from each other. So may have distortion there, but I didn't want them overlapping. And now if I take these, scale them down. Now let's see how these guys match up. So, let's see what happens when we stitch together. Now I know it looks like a hot mess. That's because they're just sitting on top of each other. I'm going to turn off symmetry for a second so I can actually separate them. I'm just kind of pull these guys apart so I can see them. And I also have to look and see, well, what are these representing? That's the top, and that's the bottom. Okay, so if that's the case, I'm going to rotate this. No. There's a few. There you are. Okay. Tweet. Oh, there was a. I love this, but it's like there's so many new things of how they put it in. So they have a whole bunch of cool new tools, but at the same time, there you are. Sometimes trying to find them are just a little tough. So, okay, so we got that. I'm actually just going to rotate you like this. Take you, rotate you like this. And now I can take you. There, it looks about right. And now if I take these guys, and now if I go in and do a little bit of optimizing, you see we're getting rid of that distortion. Here we go. See that? And this is making life a lot easier. Okay. And then once again, I would just do the same for the foot. I'd grab part of the foot, shift period to grow that selection. I've got the whole foot. Oops, jinkies. And I forgot to do symmetry on, which will cut my time in half, which is nice, huh? So let's grab that again. Right about there. Shift period, and we're going to planar map on the Y, so middle mouse button. There's his little, well, his big feet. And then I'm going to do a cut going across it of where I'd want to separate, and I'll just put that, man, oh, so funky, the modeling. Okay, so I'm just gonna, oh, you are so difficult. Okay. Okay, let's just try actually from you to you. And I'm just going to go around. And I'm basically just outlining this based off of where I want to separate the top and the bottom. And I may have to take some creative license with it because, like I said, there's some weird topology with this model. Very weird. Okay, that's okay. That'll work. So I cut those. I go to shell. So now I should have the top and the bottom. I could take these and flip them because once again, they are they were flipped upside down. And now I can actually grab these, and you want to flip them before you hit optimize because otherwise it gets really, really weird. So, okay, that's that. That's that. We look at the level of distortion, if any. We've got the bottom of the foot, which would be these guys right here. Well, this is the top of the foot, and then we have the bottom of the foot here. And we just want to make sure that it actually stays relatively consistent with the texture size of everything else. So if I actually go into here, I shrink it down a bit, and I want to kind of match them to these here. Once, like I said, you may have a little bit of distortion, but it's not going to be the end of the world. But once again, you'll notice that I'm trying to keep the these guys relatively in check with each other, you know, so this texture scale is the same, plus it's easier to identify these shapes, the bottom of the foot, the top of the foot, that kind of stuff. Okay. I'll just turn off. You notice I have to keep on turning on and off symmetry just so I can get things sometimes a little closer to each other. And I'm just organizing things, you know. And ultimately all these are going to fit in the 0 to 1 space. I'm just organizing them now and cleaning them up, and then all of these have to fit into this area. And then I just use a higher resolution texture. So just gonna do, I could do the whole half of a body. I could do the head and the body separate. It kind of just depends on what you plan on doing. So in other words, if I took, let's say we did the neck like this. Oh man, like I said, the geometry on this is unique. I'm gonna cut, and I'm just gonna go from here to here. Okay, let's try that again. To you. Oh god darn it. Oh, I'm doing too much. It's getting a little confused. Okay, to here. You. To here. Okay, that'll work. And cut. And what I have now, here's the fun part, is I have to these are broken into pieces. Now the cool thing is I can actually go in and see if I can grab some of them, but it's also some areas that I don't want. So I might be able to just say, you know what, Control deselect. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. And I just basically keep the areas that I do want, right, which is the main body. So I was Control selecting to get rid of those. Oh, and your fuzzy little tail, I don't want that. We'll do that later. Boop. You know what? And for right now, here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm actually going to do a cylindrical map, but I am going to click on this, little T, click on the circle, and rotate it so it's like this. And look at that. What it does, looks like one area is a little, that area is a little off. We can fix that. What it does is it's opening it up. Here's the legs. Here's the back, the tummy. Okay, we'll just fix it in post. That one area is just not wanting to get it, so I'll have to cut that and put it over here. Not a big whoop. Okay, so that looks actually pretty good. What I'm going to do now, select this edge here and cut that. Grab these guys here and it's not fully cut, so I have to get in there. Let's see what that is. Where are you connecting? What is this? It's this part. So essentially, it's just, yeah, there it is. It's just cutting this edge. And we'll cut that. And now it's still connected. There's something there that I'm missing. Where is it? Where is it indeed? Oh, you know what I can do? Hold on. Let's just do this bit by bit. And let's turn off symmetry. And I'm just going to click there. I'm going to cut that. So if I get this shell here, I can actually go in, just stitch that together. You'll see we we fix that. And then if I look at this area here, this is the part that's going mad wonky. So there's just some weirdness happening right here. And I think most of it is because of that little geometry thing that's going on. So symmetry is off. I go right here. I stitch that back. That's a little better. And I'm looking at that going, man, it's just not doing, it's not doing it the way I want it to. It's much better because if I actually scale this down, you can see that actually looks pretty good. I just don't like how it's necessarily, I know it's curved, but I'm not digging how it's doing it. So if I back out of that, scale that down, and that kind of like that, but I just want to fix this weird area up here. Just going to planar map that, or shift, what was it? Shift left mouse button, and I'm going to project it based off of the camera. Okay, so it's ginormous, but that's okay. And I'm just going to shrink that down. And then I have to say, oh, you know what? I have to cut the center. And now I can see where F. Where would that connect? And, oh, not there. Here. Okay. Okay, so that would go there. This would go over here. That makes more sense. So if I have these corners here, stitch these over here, stitch, and now that looks a little more reasonable. And now I can go in just with these areas. Okay, that's that edge right there. It's okay. Because that's the head. Okay. Was a shift period. Shift period. And now I can see what these are. Okay. That makes sense. So whenever it's red, that basically means, oh, this guy is, there we go. Much better. So the general idea, and you can see how I'm doing this, is I'm just going in and I'm breaking it into pieces. I still have to do more cleanup, but you can see how these pieces are making a lot more sense. There's no red on them when I get it done right. And then it's just a matter of doing the rest of it, which would be the little tail and the ears, planar map, and then cut it so the outside and the inside is one and the outside is another. And then the face I could do a few different ways, like half and half, or I could just um, unwrap it so that it's like it looks like a mask. But this hopefully will give you a little bit of a better idea, because as I'm looking at a lot of the stuff you guys are doing, you have the general idea, but you're not oh, come on. But you're not focusing on the element of how to actually break them apart and put them in shells, and why you're doing it. It's like, so I'm trying to get this so I can actually put it together and make it something more realistic that I can work with, because that's going to make life a whole lot easier for me. So it's kind of odd. This is an odd model now, isn't it? So that would just leave the ears, the face, and the ears are basically the same thing. I grab it, planar map, and then slice it along the edge so I can have one side, the inside, then the outside kind of lined up. But as I would go in, then I would just start to grab all these guys. Oops. And get them so that they are consistent with each other, and then squeeze them into the 0 to 1 space. Right, so if it looks like one is too big or too small, then I can kind of modify that, see, so that the squares are relatively the same size. And that way I don't have a jump in texture resolution. These guys would fit in here. I'd tighten these guys up, and then everything goes in, would eventually be squeezed and fit into the 0 to 1 space. And I can also, once it's in there, then I can go in and really start to, oh, this should be closer. I want there to be more space, or less space in between them, and just making all of those little things happen. And the cool part is that as I separate these things, I can then go in and make selections like this a whole lot easier. And then when I say, oh, you know what, this needs to be selected for the head. Another ingon killing me softly. The gods of modeling are crying. And afterwards I would just decide how exactly where do I want the cuts to be. Right. And I might even include these guys, or just include it into the ears, I think. So if I have those, there's the face. Oops. Looks like he has some mouth too. Isn't that nice? And we grab that, and let's do a planar map just so I can show you this. It's kind of interesting. If I do this as a planar map from the x-axis, which would be the side, Control Shift. Oh, jinkies. Shift left mouse button, x-axis, apply. So now I have there it is there, right? And now, but see, so for the sides they're somewhat okay, but then there's this weirdness. So now it's a matter of how to open this up. Or doing something like this, where we literally now cut it in half if the geometry was what it should be. Ugh. Okay. So now I go down here, 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 because it's just not wanting me to pick it the way it should be. Ah, that worked. Yay. So now I can cut it. So now it should be cut right down the middle. Let us hope. And now I can go in. Well, it's not. There's some edge that's missing someplace. Oh, there you are. Cut. And we're going to flip that one. So these are both sides of the face. Now I can do the whole symmetry thing. There we go. That's much better. And yeah, there's some weirdness in the center. So I'm going to do something a little interesting. I'm going to take the edge going down the center like so. I know there's some weird overlaps happening. And let's just start there. And I'm going to stitch them together. I could just sew them and then it kind of just connects them that way. And then I could go in. That's not what I wanted. Grab it, actually as the UVs, and then do an optimize and see what happens. Not bad. Okay. So the eyes, like the mouth would be here and stuff like that. And once again, I can choose, if I want to open this up a little bit. But for the most part, that looks like it's working. There's just, like I said, some weird geometry in there. And that's the whole side of the head. Here's the mouth and stuff, where the eyes would be. But this should give you an idea of the general process. And look at how I have these shapes. Then all I have to do is deal with these guys, which are the ears and the tail, I believe. And then I would just do those, and then I'd squeeze all of them into the 0 to 1 space, and then you're good. So I think hopefully this will help you guys out a little bit. I'm using symmetry. I'm doing both things. This works obviously if your model is not symmetrical. If it's having issues in that realm, then yes, you're going to have a little bit of a problem using symmetry, and you'll just have to do a little more manual kind of stuff. But this is the general idea, and this should speed things up. And then I have everything would fit nicely into the 0 to 1 space. And if I do it properly, then you'll notice that only the 0 to 1 space is highlighting. Once I know I have everything UV mapped, then I can scale things up and rotate them and move them around so they fit into here so I don't have as much negative space. Okay? But I think that should give you a better idea just from what is some of the things I saw with the UVs, just give you a little bit of a better understanding of it. Okay?